Good. And bon appetit. If there's anyone here more excited than I am for being here, I doubt that very much. It's not a pleasure, it's an honor to be back to Morristown. 58 years ago, when I was only 17, I came through your sponsorship. The word is serve to change lives. You're looking at it. Okay? I'm here before you to answer all your questions. On any of the things I would like to discuss with you here, how this has changed my life and what I have become at the age of 75. As my grandson Omar just graduated from high school in Ashburn, Virginia, I said to myself, this is the time you have to do it. I've been planning, there was the pandemic, there was all of that. When I in fact received in 2015, when it was the 50th anniversary of our graduation, Jackie Hale Beasley sent me the reunion booklet. So I've been trying to get here, but things only happened today, and I can't be more thankful to God. I went by the school, and I had lost my letter M. Now it has East written on the side, which wasn't the case when I had my letter, because I had broken the school record in high jump. And that's exactly why I wanted to come to the United States. I was the Turkish high jump record holder, and I knew there were better competition in the United States, and AFS came to my school for an examination. And of all the applicants, I had the worst marks because I was too busy with sports. And they asked me, why with these credits you want to go to the States? I said, if I get there, I'm going to break the record there. And I did. One moment of my life, which I can never forget, happened in Chattanooga JC's in February 1965, when Ronnie Palmer and we represented Morristown, and he was the athlete of our times. He came in third place, and I won the race, and I broke the record that night. The next day, we were up on the stage, and Miss Chattanooga was giving a handshake to the second and the third comers with a medal of different sizes, and a trophy of this size with a kiss on both cheeks to the first comer. So the guy who came in second place had tears in his eyes, and I couldn't make anything of it. So I asked the guy to my left, why is he crying? And he said, the girl that just kissed you happens to be his girlfriend. So when you're 18, I'm sure we all have remembrances of those moments in our life. But I probably have more than you guys do, because I have come from a different planet, from Istanbul, which only was 2 million people when I arrived here. Morristown County had 30,000, now it's 60,000 is what I'm told, but do you know what Istanbul is now? 16 million people. And so everyone, for the next 2 years, till I was 20, I was back in action with my athletic capability at that time. And one day from university, we were walking with one of the AFS students who had come with me. And I asked him, where are you going? And he said, I'm going to apply to become a guide, a tourist guide. And he said, why don't you come along with me? And I said, I don't even have time for school, you know, I have all my practices. He said, it's actually a very difficult exam is what I'm told. And he said, if you qualify, then you can decide if you want to go or not. So an athlete whose major interest at that age was to look at the bar and run to it and jump over it, this was a challenge. I took the test, I passed it, he didn't, and I became a guide. But then I remembered the movie I had seen here in Morristown with my classmates. We had gone to watch From Russia with Love, James Bond, Sean Connery. 1964 they were showing it here. The movie is from 63. They were walking in the corner to a wish-making column behind the guide. That's where I saw a guide does what he does for the first time in my life, and it happened here. So he put his finger, and everybody else put the finger in there. And then when I went back to Turkey, I read more about the column to find out that in the year 541 AD, Justinian plague in Constantinople had killed 1/3 of the city. Does that sound familiar to our times? The pandemic we've just had. So I decided at that time to be a guide and to tell all my future tourists, we're not going to put the fingers in there. And I've been telling that in the last 55 years. The last video I have is from 2013, and I'm saying to them, look, the people are still putting their fingers in there. We're not going to do it because the bird flu in China killed people in Canada. We have exactly the same situation right now. We will keep having that. And if we don't learn from our past, we cannot pass this to the future generations. Experience is everything. And that's what I've been able to do in the last 55 years with thousands of students. People were asking me questions about religion. So I had to learn not only Islam, I'm a Muslim, and I went to the First Baptist Church here with the Bennings the whole year. And so I had to learn the Abrahamic faiths, all three of them, when I went back. And then people would ask me, does this carpet cost $5,000? How on earth would I know as a guy? Okay, so I had to learn about carpets. The question you asked me was?
The difference in Persian carpets and Turkish carpets.
Persians and Turks are the two handmade carpet superpowers of the world. It's like the US and Russia, okay, in carpet making. We made the first carpet, which is now in Leningrad's Hermitage Museum. It's about 2,500 years old. It was discovered in the Altai Mountains in Central Asia in 1947. Was buried with the man who had died. They were horsemen, and the carpet was covering the saddle of the horse. They used to bury everything with the deceased, so when he would come back to world in the hereafter, he would meet the horse, right? It's like we will probably check for our credit cards when we come back. So, but that belief is why the carpet stayed there, frozen, for 2,500 years. So if you want your carpets to last longer, you freeze dry it. I mean, it will last. And it's in Leningrad's Hermitage Museum, and it is a beautiful Turkish carpet made with double knots. That's the difference between Turkish and Iranian carpets. They do single knotting. We do double knotting. And in order to do this, I brought this from our family heirlooms. This carpet is 110 years old, by the way. Okay? And if you want to see later on where this double knot is, I will show it to you, and you can carry the weight of the whole carpet from this one double knot. We make them to last longer. That's why I visited that Heritage Museum in Washington in 2019. And there they had this house from Philadelphia, which was 200 years old. They had assembled it and put it in the museum, in which 5 generations, they said, had lived in that house. Well, we have carpets in Istanbul that are 801 years old, over which 20 generations have walked. So I had to learn about carpets. So my suggestion to any of your friends who are maybe doing an open house, to put a carpet in that empty house. And when they show the house, tell the people to build around it. Because the carpet will outlast the house, not only the people. So they won't have to spend money every 10 years. You guys know, because with your collections, all these projects can go to the future. This is why making money is not easy. So saving is where you start. And this is how you should be doing it, okay, with the carpets. That's how I tie my story. I have here, by the way, Hereke carpets from 1843. You have a Vermely room in the White House. On the floor you have a Hereke carpet from 1861. Beautiful carpet. And of course, some of your presidents have been to Turkey, such as George Bush and Clinton's with the family and a Turkish Hereke carpet in their hands from 1999. So this is part of the state etiquette. We give it to the visiting special people, our carpets. And I have here some books which tells you about carpets. And I have my yearbook here to share with you in case you want to look at it. And I have here pictures of mine where at the Rotary and Lions clubs I made these speeches in 1964 and 65. I look a little different, but besides that, the stuff is all correct. And I am so thankful that you guys have given me this chance to be part of the Bennings for a whole year. And I wanted ever so much to get back so I could tell you my story. Very briefly, here I assembled highlights from Anatolian history and Turkish carpet history. If you want to take a look at it, the original one is in Istanbul. It starts with these Yarımburgaz caves, which are outside of Istanbul, where the early men lived 800,000 years ago. So Turkey is very rich in history. Your 7 churches of Revelation happen to be on Turkish land today, and I have led many church father groups to Turkey and helped them throughout. And then we have the caves here, and then in Istanbul you have remains from the last 8,500 years. And then Göbekli Tepe, which used to be Edessa in the Bible, is where the early people lived. And they did farming as well as hunting. And that's 12,000 years ago. Can you imagine that? So, when in school, Grace Catherine's class, I was one of the 4 students making straight A's from history, A+. The guy behind me, I can't remember his name, he held up his hand one day and he said, I don't even know where Turkey is on the map, but he keeps making A+, and the best I can do is a C-. How is that? So I told him, look, you have to study, okay? And you're so lucky not to be Turkish. Otherwise, you'd have to go through all this. So, I mean, history is important, everyone, because you can't look at today and understand the world if you don't know what happened in the past. Of course, Morristown has changed. The world has changed and will change more. But if we are not on today's train, we decided to retire and get off the train will go to the future and we will remain to be part of the past. The past is gone. We don't know what tomorrow brings. The best moment of our life is right now, this very minute. And what can we make out of it? How can we make the best use of it is what we should ask ourselves. I'm sure of all these things, I told Carl, he asked me how many minutes you want to talk. I said, well, I can do 10 minutes, I can do 10 hours, so you tell me. And I'm not going to take any much of your time. But one thing I did, which I take credit for it, humbly, in 1995, I was in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, talking to the Renaissance cruise ship people, because I've done 60 cruises in my life in the Mediterranean, 3 months between the east and west of the Caribbean, and 2 months between Brazil and Argentina. I'm cruised out. I've done cruise with Oprah Winfrey. I mean, I've seen lots, everyone. So they took me to talk to the people at Renaissance Cruises. Richard Kirby was the name of the CEO, and he said, I haven't met you before, so if you can tell us what good we can get out of meeting you. I said, well, I spoke for 15 minutes like I'm talking to you right now. And then I said, I'm sure your time is so limited and valuable and you may have questions, which I would love to answer. The same I want to do when I finish the sentence with you guys. And I said to him, do you have any questions? He turned around to the other people that were with me and he said, is this guy really Turkish? Because part of what I told him included the sentence, satisfaction is guaranteed or your money is fully refunded. North American system from the 19th century. Okay? You can Google and find out who is the guy who invented it, became rich afterwards in New York City. And so, since that moment, the Grand Bazaar, covered bazaar of Istanbul, which was established in 1461, has applied the system to all the cruise ship members. And it was based on my proposal. So I try to take as little as possible credit to what I have done, because I can't thank God, the Almighty, for what He has provided me in this world. The whole thing is a challenge, but I'd love to see you leave this room making the point that this is the best time of your life right now, because we are alive. The guy came out of Italy after the pandemic, and they gave him this bill, which read 2,300 euros for the 10 days he was inhaling through the machinery. He looked at it and he said, I wonder how much I owe God. I make that my point for today. And thank you from the very bottom of my heart for the Southern hospitality which I was introduced 58 years ago. It's great to be back. Thank you very much.